want a revolution.
My motto for business is the Beatles. They were four guys who kept each other's kinds of negative tendencies in check. They balanced each other and the total was greater than the sum of the parts. That's how I see business. Great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people. Quote by Steve Jobs. San Francisco on February 24, 1955, a baby named Stephen Paul Jobs, or Steve Jobs, was born and adopted. He wasn't just a normal baby, he was a human who in the future would change our technology and the way we communicate with each other in a way that no other person has ever done.
Alright.
When he was born, his parents Joanne Carol Shebel and Abdul Fattah Jandali, who were university students at the time, had no choice but to put the baby up for adoption because Joanne's parents did not approve of the couple's relationship.
Well, you know, we all do what we can.
Then the Jobs family adopted him and moved to Mountain View, a suburban town in Santa Clara County. Steve had his first job at the age of 13 at a factory. A year later, in 1969, he met a man named Steve Wozniak. They both loved and had a passion for electronics. Soon after, they both illegally sold blue boxes that allowed others to make phone calls for free. They took parts from other machines and made the first personal computer in the garage. Steve's dream was to harness the power of the computer and improve human life.
The best analogy I've ever heard is Scientific American, I think it was, did a study in the early 70s on the efficiency of locomotion. And what they did was for all different species of things on the planet, birds and cats and dogs and fish and man, goats and stuff, they measured how much energy does it take for a goat to get from here to there, right? Kilocalories per kilometer or something, I don't know what they measured it. And they ranked them, they published a list, and the condor won. The condor took the least amount of energy to get from here to there. And man didn't do so well, came in with a rather unimpressive showing about a third of the way down the list. But fortunately, someone at Scientific American was insightful enough to test man with a bicycle. And man with a bicycle won, twice as good as the condor, all the way off the list. And what it showed was that man as a tool maker has the ability to make a tool to amplify an inherent ability that he has. And that's exactly what we're doing here. It's exactly what we're doing here.
In the early 1970s, he went to Reed College, Oregon, and later dropped out and moved to a hippie commune and gets his first job at Atari making video games. Shortly after, he goes to India to seek knowledge. When he was done in India, he and Waz showed the early Apple I board at the Homebrew Computer Club and they incorporated Apple Computer Inc. with Ron Wayne. They started selling Apple I computers in Jobs' garage. During those years, they make a big impression on people all over the world and make Apple II and Apple III computers. When they went public, they made over $200 million. On September 17, 1985, Jobs resigned from Apple and starts Next with 5 other refugees from Apple. Apple said they will sue Next. Next was a high-end computer company. Later, Steve became the co-founder of Pixar and he sold it to Disney for $7.4 billion, which really helped. Pixar is a computer animation film studio that have done Disney films like Toy Story. Steve Jobs marries Lorraine Powell in 1991 and they have 3 kids. His kids are Lisa from a previous marriage, Reed, Aaron, and Eve. Apple then buys Next and Steve Jobs becomes its hero again in 1997. Steve Jobs helped create the first iPod, which launched on October 23, 2001. 6 years later, Steve and his team shocked the world with the release of the very first iPhone, which proved to change the way we communicate. Just when people thought the iProducts couldn't get any better, Steve's team released the first generation of the iPad in 2010.
All these things, one after another, it's like home run, home run, home run, home run.
and there's only one babe.
In a recent chart published by the Engineering and Technology magazine, also known as the ENT, Steve Jobs increased the growth of Apple phenomenally. In this chart, you can see Apple shares increased from just a few dollars to over $400 in just 10 years.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Besides creating a powerful new industry worth billions of dollars, he also impacted the lives of many people around the globe. How has Steve Jobs impacted your life?
Well, when I was in college, I used to use a manual typewriter to do my papers, and because I didn't like using the IBM computers and using DOS as I'd always done in the past, it took too long. And my friend said, "You got to come down to the Mac Lab and try these awesome new computers." And it was my first experience using a Macintosh computer, and it got me, in a way, really interested in Steve Jobs' creation. I was fascinated by Apple and amazed at the technology, and thought it was so fun that here was this nerdy guy who was so amazing and inventive and a genius, and it really changed how I looked at computers and how I use them for the rest of my life.
Should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It's life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Right now, the new is you. But someday, not too long from now, you will gradually become the old and be cleared away.
Early in the morning, on October 5th, 2011, technology's god and our world's hero died of cancer. Many people were sad, and a lot claimed he is the reason why they strive to advance our world.
In times of trouble, Mother Mary comes.
Hello? I'm working on a project right now. Can you call me later? Okay, bye. This documentary was produced on iMovie on the MacBook Pro.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me.